Have you ever wondered what's really going on with Social Security and whether there's any real help coming for everyday Americans in the form of new stimulus? Millions of people rely on this program as their lifeline, but the truth is, both Social Security and economic relief efforts are under pressure, and most of us aren't being told the full story. If you're retired, close to retirement, or just trying to stay ahead of the economic curve, what you're about to hear could directly impact your future. Let's start with Social Security. Every month, millions of Americans count on that check to pay for rent, groceries, medication, and other essentials. But here's something most people don't realize: Social Security isn't built to last forever in its current form. Right now, the program is paying out more than it's bringing in. According to official reports, Social Security ran a deficit of $67 billion last year alone. That means they had to tap into the trust fund to cover the gap, and that trust fund is shrinking year after year. If nothing changes, by the time we reach the early 2030s, that trust fund will be depleted. And at that point, the government will legally be forced to cut benefits by roughly 23%. That's not speculation. That's the current law. Unless lawmakers act soon, your monthly benefit could take a significant hit, even if you've worked your whole life and paid into the system. Now, most people assume Social Security is a guaranteed benefit because they've paid into it for decades. But here's the uncomfortable truth: the government is under no legal obligation to pay you back in full. There is no ironclad rule that says you must receive a benefit equal to what you've contributed. Social Security is technically a government managed program, not a savings account with your name on it. That's why it's more important than ever to understand how fragile this system is and how quickly it could change. One of the biggest challenges is the shifting demographics. People are living longer, and birth rates are lower than in previous generations. That means fewer workers are supporting more retirees. Back when the system was strong, there were about 5 workers for every one retiree. Today, it's closer to 2.8, and that number is expected to continue dropping. Unless changes are made, either by raising the payroll tax cap, increasing the full retirement age, or making cuts elsewhere, Social Security will struggle to stay afloat. Now let's shift over to stimulus and whether Americans can expect more economic help. After the last few years of stimulus checks, expanded unemployment benefits, and temporary boosts to SNAP and child tax credits, many people are still asking, is there another round of direct relief coming? And the answer is more complicated than a simple yes or no. While there's no new stimulus check currently approved at the federal level, certain policies buried in broader legislation could still act as a form of economic stimulus, but not in the way most people expect. Instead of direct payments, the new approach looks more like tax incentives for businesses, investment credits, and state level rebates. This means the benefits are less visible to the average person and more geared toward encouraging job creation and business expansion, with the idea that the money will trickle down through wages and employment opportunities. But for many Americans, especially those living on fixed incomes like Social Security, this type of stimulus doesn't translate into immediate relief. Rising costs of living, housing, healthcare, and groceries are putting massive strain on seniors. And although Social Security recipients receive a cost of living adjustment each year, it often lags behind the real pace of inflation, leaving many people falling further behind financially. So, while politicians promote economic growth strategies through tax cuts and corporate incentives, the everyday impact for retirees and low income households is limited. And let's not forget the changes being proposed to programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and housing assistance, all of which directly affect the most vulnerable groups. Now, here's where the problem deepens. Some lawmakers argue that since Social Security already got a significant COLA increase recently, it doesn't need further support. Others claim the system is unsustainable and should be privatized or means tested. But that approach ignores one major fact: Social Security isn't a handout, it's something workers have paid into for decades. It's earned. And any cuts to that promise hit hardest for those who have the least flexibility in their budgets. You might be asking, what's being done about it? Unfortunately, not much. Despite repeated warnings from economists, trustees, and bipartisan experts, Congress continues to stall. No major legislation has passed to shore up Social Security's future. And without action, time is running out. The fixes are available: raising the payroll tax cap, adjusting benefits for high earners, or slowly increasing the full retirement age, but none of these are politically popular. And so, they remain stuck in gridlock. Meanwhile, on the stimulus front, unless there's a severe recession or an emergency like the pandemic, don't expect another blanket relief check. Any future economic aid is more likely to be targeted, such as energy credits, housing subsidies, or expanded tax credits for families with children. And again, these types of benefits often require action on your part. You have to apply, file, or qualify in specific ways. That's very different from a direct deposit that just shows up in your account. Even though many are hoping for another round of stimulus checks, something direct, tangible, and easy to access, the reality is that Washington is not moving in that direction right now. Instead of mailing out payments like we saw during the pandemic, lawmakers are pivoting toward policy tools that mostly benefit corporations and high income earners, leaving everyday Americans, especially seniors and fixed income households, waiting, watching, and hoping for relief that may never come in the way they expect. And that disconnect is part of the problem. What's frustrating is how many Americans are still feeling the sting of inflation. Basic necessities, groceries, rent, medications, are still eating away at monthly budgets. Social Security COLA increases try to keep up, but they rarely do. And while the government says inflation is cooling, people aren't feeling it. If anything, it's costing more just to live at the same standard people had a few years ago. This is where meaningful stimulus could come in, not just for short term relief, but long term security. Unfortunately, there's no serious bipartisan push right now to provide targeted support to the most vulnerable, especially seniors. And while tax cuts and business incentives may benefit the economy in theory, they take time to trickle down, if they ever do. People who need help now can't wait for market reactions, stock performance, or corporate hiring cycles. They need affordable food. They need reliable transportation. They need prescription coverage that doesn't break their monthly budget. So, when we talk about stimulus, the question isn't just, is there stimulus? The real question is it going to the people who actually need it most? It's also worth noting that even programs like Social Security aren't guaranteed. There's no law forcing the government to fund it forever. And the clock is ticking. Politicians know the trust fund is dwindling. They've read the same reports, they've seen the projections. But the longer they delay action, whether through tax reform, benefit restructuring, or economic policy adjustments, the more likely it becomes that the only stimulus most Americans will feel is a sudden cut to their benefits. So, as voters, as citizens, as people just trying to make ends meet, we have to stay informed, ask tough questions, and push leaders to act.